Hello again. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network, taking you into the garage area and talk to the folks that make the race cars go around the racetrack. Right now, drop everything and subscribe to our channel. Also, like and share it. If you like what we're doing on Crew Call, share it to all your friends on social media. We do appreciate it. That's the way things are done here in 2024 and how we continue to move the ball forward here with our great conversations that we have here. I'm Steve Post, pit road reporter for Motor Racing Network, joined by 25-time and championship-winning crew chief Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm great. Coming off a weekend that we saw some fabulous racing on the racetrack. Saw different players. We saw Brad Keselowski come up and lead a lot of laps. Saw Chase Elliott look like he had really good pace. But the long run, you can't beat young Ryan Blaney.
No, and this was very obvious. We had a couple of people during our practice show on Friday say, we're really good, but the 12 car is really good on the long run. And you could see it. He had one run, the run when he was behind Brad and Ryan actually talked about this. He didn't have quite as good a setup. The last run, they nailed the balance on that car. Todd, long run speed, Ryan Blaney, just describe a little bit of why.
He's so disciplined. He's so disciplined and understands what. And when Martinsville's one of these racetracks that when you figure out the rhythm you've got to run around this place, it works. Traditionally, it will continue to work. And we saw with a softer tire, we saw the racetrack take a fair amount of rubber. It didn't take a ton of rubber because it wasn't really, really hot, but it took rubber. And when it takes rubber, just rolling that bottom's difficult. You've got to start staggering over it, or you do what Ryan Blaney does, and he does this at an art that nobody else can match. He just wraps that curb. He rolls a ton of speed into the corner, but he has enough turn in the car to keep the left front tire half an inch off that curb.
Yeah.
And when he does that, he keeps his right sides underneath all that rubber that everybody else that's running a foot off of it. So he wraps around the curb so good and has good turn in his car, and he takes care of his rears. He does a phenomenal job. When I was his crew chief, we cost him 2 clocks there. Oh, he cost himself one. We cost him one. Yeah. We finished second in that race with pit road penalties consecutively. 2 races. We came down pit road, got a over the wall too soon, had to start tail end, drove all the way, and that was deep in the race. Drove all the way back to second. I think we could have beaten Martin on that day if we had stayed on sequence with him, but we couldn't. Once we got there, we couldn't run him down. Yeah. And he got his pit road speeding penalty. Went tail end and still recovered to second. Like, he has a knack for that place. And Jonathan does a great job with making sure he gives him the race car that Ryan needs to do that. But eerily similar to last year. Second, had a really good car at Homestead, didn't come away with a win, ended up second. Went into Martinsville and dominated the long run and won the race. Be interesting what happens next weekend.
It's fascinating. Two things that you said. Listening to Chase Elliott's radio, Alan Gustafson, that last
what a great
run,
call.
What a great call. Oh, great call. That was their best. That was the best hope with a wounded race car. That was their best call. That was a great call.
Yes, and it was. Would you call it a wounded race car or one they just lost track position with?
Chase was complaining about the car after bouncing off the wall. There did not appear to be damage, but Chase said we killed the front at one point.
Yeah, so I just to short pit that and then go long, you got to expect there's going to be a caution at some point. We're in a cutoff race. Yeah. I think a great call by Alan Gustafson.
I do too. I think that team comes into this end of this year with a lot of momentum and a lot of good performance, even though they won't run for the championship. All right. End of the race, chaos. And it was chaos. It was the weirdest scene I've ever seen. We're used to being down in turns 1 and 2 when the fisticuffs down there. I stood in 1 and 2 for 20 minutes on, we're recording this on Monday morning.
Yes.
Last night I stood there and it was eerie silence.
Yeah. Well, because there's shenanigans, as I heard,
exactly.
That all played out. And you look at this, let's lay out the facts. The 24 was ahead of the 20 car by 1 position. He couldn't lose another position, and the 20 was in a difficult position to gain a position. So they were good. Didn't seem like, I'll say the perception from the outside, didn't look like the 3 car was willing to pass the 24. Mm-hmm. Didn't look like the 1 car was willing to pass the 24 or the 3, but they plugged it up where nobody else could. And then Bubba Wallace has a tire going down, and we'll see where all that plays out for NASCAR. As you said, it's Monday. We don't know where everybody's playing, but so he's backing up. So we've got kind of manufacturer alliances working here. And I'm curious to see what NASCAR does this week. I would not be surprised to see NASCAR come out with multiple penalties. And I wouldn't be surprised to see NASCAR come out with something that might be manufacturer-based.
Wow. Okay.
I wouldn't be surprised. I won't say that I think it will. I think NASCAR has to make a deeper dive, and they will. Typically, that's on Tuesday.
They're working
that's
on
their
that.
layout is Tuesday, that is, and we'll hear about it Wednesday if there's anything to talk about. But I think they'll do a deeper dive into this because the perception's not good.
No, and the in-car audio, I went on X and watched in-car audio, and some of the conversations were I'll start this. I'll share this conversation we started with. This is, I'm always, when we go to the super speedways, I'm always a little bit like, this manufacturer stuff. Understand it.
Yep.
Understand that's the way to succeed. And it just seems like it's pushing my EU factor. Boy, there were some things last night that were just kind of like, I'm not sure I like what we're at there with this. And I'll be interested to see what NASCAR does.
Yeah, we'll see where NASCAR gets to this week. I do think, I mean, the optics say that it's race manipulation on both sides.
Yep.
I think Christopher Bell had to be penalized. Emotionally, I didn't want it to be a penalty to start with because I thought, it was a whatever. Yeah. Because as you watched it, but that's the rule.
There's a rule.
You can't be on the wall and gas up and run full throttle.
Right.
I mean, it's that's over the line. As they talk about, there's a line out there. You know when you cross it. That one was well over it. Getting up against the wall and at Darlington or at Homestead, and you'll typically try to pull yourself off before you gas up. So I think if Seabell had pulled himself off the wall and just exited the corner, he'd been fine. But from where he got to and how he got to the wall was not. I don't feel like it was intentional to do what he did.
No, I don't.
I think he just got in a situation that he knew he had to beat Bubba, and he was willing to do whatever he had to, and he did
let
wasn't legal.
Let the chips fall where they lie.
Yep.
Well, I hope nobody is seeing it or whatever it is, or it's not.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
so.
I got a couple of attaboys. Tyler Allen, crew chief for the Joe Gibbs Racing, number 20 car. Eric Almirola won 8 wins this season, Todd, and he's a rookie crew chief.
Yeah.
That is spectacular. 2 each with Eric Almirola, John Hunter Nemechek, Christopher Bell, and Ryan Truex. Another attaboy, Charles Deneke, crew chief for Christian Eckes. 4 wins this season, 4 wins last year with Christian Eckes. Obviously got some attention. He is moving to Cup next year, crew chief for Bubba Wallace over at 2311. So a couple of attaboys there. What we're going to...
No, it's our guest coming up, right?
Yes.
Billy Scott.
Yes.
And we need to put the disclaimer out there that this is championship week, so we do not interview championship 4 crew chiefs and take the distraction of them during the week. We had an opportunity to get with Billy Scott last Thursday. There was a NASCAR Media Day. Yep. Knew that he was through. We recorded this on Thursday. So it doesn't have a little bit of look back of the Martinsville weekend, but it's still a great interview.
Yeah, absolutely. Great stuff. Great insight going into Phoenix with Billy Scott. So stay with us. Billy Scott interviews coming up next. Welcome back. It is Crew Call here on the Motor Racing Network. Let's do it. Let's talk to one of the crew chiefs that will be running for the championship this week at Phoenix. Billy Scott from up at 2311 joins us. Hello, Billy. How are you?
Oh, doing great.
I guess.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Billy, last week, you guys had that win at Homestead. The euphoria of that, the front stretch celebration, the excitement of it. Share a little bit about that moment, but also I want to share about, the reality of it is that you just signed yourself up for even more going to Phoenix. How do you balance that celebration last week with then getting zoned in and getting focused in on Phoenix?
Well, actually, it was really nice that it was a week early. Obviously, I've never been a part of this. There's a lot of new elements to it for, our whole organization, for most of the people on our team, and for myself and Tyler. And just to be able to get the opportunity to celebrate the win and kind of separate that from the preparation going into Phoenix was we were fortunate to be able to do that. And, this team has done an awesome job, Tyler especially, when we've really been in a hole, backs up against the wall. Yeah. And several times throughout this year that we've been caught in that situation. And to rebound from Vegas where we thought we had a really good shot to win there, fast car, up front when we were in the race, and then to flip out of it and feel like we were put in a must-win situation to come off Homestead and end up pulling off the two awesome passes on the last lap and get the win was, you saw it in the emotion. It was just incredible. He couldn't have scripted it any better.
Yeah, the great thing, you actually came to the white flag third.
Yes.
And won the race.
Yes.
Incredible to get the run that you got around Denny, set you up for the piece. And then, Ryan, that place is so wide, you can't block all the lanes, and Tyler took full advantage of it. Full commitment, getting into the corner and got himself up beside him. What a great move you guys had going forward. Winning a week early. Talk about what that's done for you at the shop and able to be prepared going to Phoenix, because Phoenix is a short week. You've got to load trucks probably, Tuesday night, Wednesday morning?
Wednesday morning, yes. And that's one of the benefits. Now that it's moved to Phoenix, it is a short week as far as the trucks leave early, but it's also a short week for us from the new schedule layouts. We're used to flying out on Friday or Saturday morning.
That's right.
And now we're flying out on Thursday because Friday's a full day with, initial tech and practice and, just the full weekend there. And so being able to have the extra week to both, be able to celebrate and kind of have, an off week at Martinsville where there's not a lot of concern or focus, and just spend the extra time with everybody from top to bottom of getting prepared. And that's from the business side to the engineering analytics stuff to the car itself.
The question I always have is, and it's always an awkward question, the question is, how do you prepare more for anything? Because you guys prepare so much for every race along the way. But when you have this, knowing you're going to Phoenix, when you have this 10-day window or 7-day window or whatever it is, what more can you do? How much more can you do?
Yeah, that's a tough deal.
Yeah.
You don't want to get yourself out of rhythm either.
Well, there's that too.
Part of it. But I think the schedule. We're never really fully prepared. I think it just always becomes time to leave and time to race.
They're never finished. You just push them in the truck, right?
That is right. So, a week to prepare. It is a lot of time in one sense, but I think the more you're able to hit on stuff and the more detailed you're able to go and more in depth into some of the aspects, it just gives you that opportunity that we pretty much just started as soon as we were done, got back from Homestead. We said, all right, we're going to now pretend this is our Phoenix week and try to do as many tasks as possible the week of Martinsville like it was Phoenix. And then when we come back to redo it all again, some stuff may be repetitive, but at least you're gonna do things to another degree, maybe uncover one little element that you didn't think of the week before, one extra conversation that you hope that's the difference maker.
How much is this of this advantage is working on physical race cars, and how much of it is actually working on the mental processes of being prepared for the weekend coming forward?
Yeah, I think it's 50-50. Certainly there are aspects of the car that every minute you've got with it is just one more thing you can detail, one more trip into the Hawkeye, one more trip across the scales to make sure things are right, one more thing you can mock up with having this weekend. The next-gen cars, it's hard to get a lot of changes done. So just having one more item that you can be ready for if it comes the need for that in practice, but also on the other side. And it's things as far as just planning. How do you get all the people out there? What do the flights look like? Who's staying where? What's your schedule going to be? Those things we've tried all along since Homestead, trying to get ahead and just get those items on the list, on the calendar, notes taken to where when we go there, it's just we can make it as seamless as possible.
And focused in on that, on the racing and that. When we go to Phoenix, you mentioned it. We go to a more traditional is a weird world because since 2020 we've done kind of what we've done. Yep. But we go back to a Friday practice session and that sort of thing. How does that factor into how you guys go out there and race this weekend?
Yeah, like I said, with the extra practice and extra changes you have to be prepared for, bringing an extra person, it's just a lot of things that are out of the ordinary. So we're just trying to talk through those, make sure we got a plan for when you're done with practice. So you're changing brakes out and you're getting stuff back ready to go through tech the next morning before qualifying. Even that schedule's different. We've got some people on the team that are new and just trying to make sure they understand what to look ahead for, making sure everybody knows where they're going to be at, what their duties are. Even race day being extra time and getting your meeting at a different point before the race. Like anything can throw you out of rhythm, and we're just trying to have all those bases covered.
You're in that position that I feel like I always wanted to be. The only car out of my organization that's competing, but I'm guaranteed through, because then all the resources are poured your way. How can Booty and Bubba help you through the Phoenix weekend.
Yeah, you're right. That is a great luxury. And we're fortunate that we've already set up in a way to benefit that we already go to the racetrack every week, identical. We already discuss who's going to try what in practice. If we're in different groups, we're already thinking about, hey, we did this, will you try this? And always communicating post-practice. The drivers are awesome about being able to help each other, spur thoughts, build on each other's qualifying laps even. So I think we are in a very good spot from that standpoint to where when we go into Phoenix practice, I think we're going to get as many options and as much ground covered as anybody.
Billy, you're so accurate in what you say. I'm down on pit road during those practice sessions, and you see some teams where the drivers are at their individual pit boxes. You guys, even the structure of it is all one pit box. You're on one side of it, and Booty's on the other side of it, but you're with Booty on one side, and Bubba's over there, and that sort of thing. Are there differences, though, in the drivers? You talk about going identical, but, how different are the drivers, or do you have those two honed in pretty good where they're pretty similar and pretty close to each other?
Yeah, it's amazing the way we've been able to make it work. And, you've always questioned that. We've all had teammates a lot throughout our careers, and you've always had to build in elements or thought you did. And just the next-gen car in general was a great opportunity because it has made most things common already. So the options are a lot more limited than what they used to be, and you can't get too far outside of a box anyway. That as we started to evolve and learn, and this was back when Kurt was here, and which, obviously we owe all of this to him in the beginning to help create this, but he's the best teammate anyone could ever ask for. And through him being able to work with Bubba closely, work with all the engineering staff, that was the first step to integrating everyone together and really understanding that there are differences and there are weeks that one might have a little bit different complaint than the other. But we've also found that if we address the complaint that whatever driver has the most, 99% of the time, it's a benefit for the other one that didn't even really realize that it was going to help them. So that if we can make the car turn better on entry and still have the drive off, well, you get the best of both worlds. So, we've kept to that plan. We've kept evolving with it, and we literally do go every time the same. And it's funny, Booty and I are so close and work so closely throughout the week on this stuff that most of the time we'll end up doing the same changes, even if we're in the same group. We don't have that luxury of saying, he did this, I'm going to do this. Yeah. We'll go the same direction, and when we're done, even a Saturday night preparing for the race, we often come back and make the cars the same again for Sunday.
That's incredible. 4 years in for 2311, you're in the championship 4. That's astounding. Talk about just internally, what's that say for you guys?
It says a lot for just what they've given us for resources, everybody's commitment. Like I said before, I think Kurt coming over here was a big step in being able to bring more people on board, not just adding the second team for him, but also for just being able to build up the infrastructure. And that's the plan going forward. If we were able to add another team in the future, they have been committed from the very beginning. It starts with building a relationship with Joe Gibbs Racing and TRD. You couldn't ask for two better supporters. And the folks at JGR really do treat our cars like a 5th and 6th team. The stuff we get from them, there's no way we could staff ourselves to do it any better. And then we've been able to have the resources to take that last step of when we receive it, that we do the final week of prep, and our race teams have been established, and we're just fortunate to have good people, and again, that they give us the resources that they don't say no to much when we need to add, whether it's engineering staff and business staff and shop floor staff, that they've just continued to grow the company as we've needed. And to be able to do this in the 4th year, obviously I think it's a little bit even ahead of the schedule they kind of self-imposed there. And it's very, satisfying to be able to accomplish that for them and to be able to go in there with an opportunity.
So I want to take that another level. What's your perception of how MJ and Denny have taken this in? Because it's ahead of the schedule, which is usually you set schedules pretty lofty.
Yeah.
The goals, I feel like to say you're going to do it in 5 is a pretty lofty goal. Doing it in 4, you get MJ over your shoulder, involved. What's it like for those two?
I think they are every bit as appreciative. You can just see the excitement. I love having MJ at the track. People have asked a lot about what kind of pressure does that bring, and it's weird. I think it's almost like a soothing sensation that, like, it's just reassuring that he's in our corner. Everything he does is positive. He supports everybody and believes in everybody. It's amazing that somebody with his level of greatness and success can just be able to take himself out of it and understand that he's still learning this, and just to trust others. It says so much about his character, and you just see their excitement, And I know Sunday was tough on Denny, having battling, and he's trying to weigh the driver versus owner side of it.
Sure.
But come Monday, he was just as happy as the rest of us. I mean, he even showed up at Airspeed Sunday night for the post party and was there to support us. So I think they understand the significance of accomplishing this early, and they're every bit as excited as the rest of us.
You have shared with us MJ's passion for this. I had a unique perspective last week at Homestead. You guys had P1, so I was right down there with Tyler's dad, with MJ, watching this thing. And I was watching MJ, and he had some folks from Nike there. And you guys are out leading that race, okay, as the strategy was playing out, and you were doing your thing. And, of course, they're looking at it. It's like there's 20 laps to go, and we're leading the race. And MJ's like, we're in trouble here. We might have a problem here.
Yep.
Watching his dynamic there, and then as you raced back onto the lead lap, he was like so pumped up because you had life, and then you kind of lost life, and then you gained life again. And then I was just so impressed with his level of detailed engagement. I had a radio guy last week say, Michael Jordan dabbling in a race team. There is no dabbling with Michael Jordan in this race team.
Absolutely not. It's the furthest thing from that. Is he is engaged, and it is amazing that, sometimes he'll ask questions that we didn't think about, pre-race. He watches the races leading up to our race that weekend. He understands the tire change situations and the aero packages. And like you said, he is fully engaged.
Yeah.
He gets it. And, he probably knew how our strategy was unfolding as well as we did.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's incredible. Talk about the strategy move you had. You left him out. I felt like you were in that 4th or 5th place spot. Probably weren't in a position to win on the same strategy. You made the call to leave him out. You left him out. And this was a piece I thought you left him out until you were going to go a lap down when you pitted.
Right.
That's the way I looked at it, right?
Yes, that is 100% correct. Yeah.
That's the extent of it. Timely caution right after that, but any caution after that was actually going to probably put you in an all right position.
Yeah, before or after. And that's kind of the way we looked at it. You're right. We went into that race after we flipped at Vegas. It's like, all right, we had a good car. We were in a good spot points-wise to just battle up front, do this round. And once we flipped and got behind, we kind of all acknowledged during the week internally leading up to Homestead that this is a must-win. We're going to go to the next 2 weeks as a must-win. Is there some remote scenario that you get points and other people have problems?
Sure.
Certainly.
Yeah.
But you don't want to depend on that. You want to control your own destiny. And that was our mentality the entire race. So we felt like we were in contention, had control of it a lot. We did fall back through a couple pit cycles. And then, you get there when you're racing. The top 4 were the guys below the cut line.
Yes.
Most of the race. It's amazing.
The final restart, the first 2 rows was a 4 below,
That's
right?
it. Yeah, for the last couple. And it's just amazing. You're not going to just drive past all of them over the run once it's strung out under green, right? Like I get the restarts as a chance to restack, and that's where you got to make your moves, and that's how we did. But as it was unfolding and we knew green flag cycles were coming, we were relegated to the fact that we're running 5th. Would we get to possibly 3rd if a good cycle and you worked out the optimal strategy and all that? That's kind of where we felt was our limit.
Yeah.
So we thought in order to be in this, in order to have a shot to win, there has to be a yellow sometime. And if there is the yellow that we need, if we were to get fortunate, well, we would like to be leading. So stay out. And like you said, even after the cycle, we were hopeful we could go a few more laps and not lose a lap because we were still good on fuel until I think maybe 8 or 9 to go. So I think we still had another 5-lap window there we could have continued to run if we were in that position, but it got tough. As we were running long run, as well as anybody, that's the difference maker. You've got to make speed when you're the only one out there on old tires, and all these new tires are flying by you and taking your air, picking your lane. So just for Tyler to maintain the fall off was what made it possible to run that long, and I think he was on board. He knew it. Once they all pitted, we said, all right, this is our bed. We're made. We're running until we're out of fuel or falling off, potentially falling off the lead lap, and executed well in the green flag cycle. And fortunately came out and got in front of the leaders before the yellow did fall.
My last question for you, going to Phoenix, first time for the organization. What's your message to not let this opportunity become overwhelming to your team?
I guess mainly just been enjoy it, understand that anything can happen. We all do certainly focus on the results. That's a big part of why we do this. It's a must, but you can't get lost in that. That we've had an incredible year. We won the regular season championship, the in-season bracket challenge, made it to the Final Four here a week early, and just to be competing for it is a huge accomplishment. And if we just all do what we've done all year, we feel like we'll be in contention, and just have to have everything go right.
Everything go right. It's going to be fun to watch this week out at Phoenix. That's for sure. I think it's dynamic because I am firmly convinced the four guys running like we just talked about at Homestead. The four guys under the bracket that needed to win were running for it. The four guys running for the championship this week at Phoenix will be battling, and you'll be in that group. Billy, always a pleasure. We appreciate you dropping by the studio, and thanks for joining us here on Crew Call.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
There we go. Billy Scott joining us here on Crew Call. Stay with us. Todd and I'll be back with more here on the show. Welcome back. It is Crew Call, and we are so glad that you are spending your time with us. Always appreciate Billy Scott and his time with us as we caught up with him last week. All right, so here we go. Winner take all. Phoenix. Todd, my question is, how important is it to have been through this process before? 3 of the 4 crew chiefs have been through it before. Paul Wolf has been through it and won. Jonathan Hesser's been through it and won. Rudy Fugel's been through it before. Billy Scott, who we just talked to, it's a new circus for him. How important is that?
I think it is. I think it's important. I think there's the been there, done that kind of settling feeling to it. I just, when you're looking at it and you've got that, you have anxiety when you don't know what it's like.
Right.
I think that bleeds into it. So having that experience, I went through this, I was championship 4. Everybody talks about Joey, but it was 14, 16, 18. We won the championship in 18. That 14 was the first year of the championship format. So, but yes, 14, I didn't know what I was racing against. Nobody else did either, but 16, I felt a lot more confident about it because I knew how it all played out. So I think that, and being successful in it is also an advantage. I think, you look at it, all of our next-gen championships have been won out of Team Penske.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're represented in the Final Four this year. So we'll see where it goes out, but I think all four of these, Billy Scott's phenomenal. What they've been able to do, run that they've been on since really the All-Star break through, they've had a ton of speed. I wouldn't rule anybody out here. I think odds are pretty even.
Unique nature of this weekend coming up at Phoenix. On Friday afternoon, we have a 50-minute practice session before Tech. Why is that important? And just describe what that means for these teams.
So this is an opportunity, and I think this is an opportunity when everybody, because it's before final inspection. They'll come and do an inspection, but all 3 series have a 50-minute practice before their final inspection, which means if I want to change sway bars, if I want to change springs, if I want to change geometries, I want to change cambers, I can do anything to my race car that will still put it within the inspection box.
Right.
I don't have to. We're typically on a race weekends, we've already been through inspection. We can adjust heights and we can adjust the arms on the sway bars, which will soften or stiffen the rates of the sway bars. You can't make spring changes. You can adjust shock clicks, but this opportunity gives you the opportunity coming forward to change cambers, to change geometries, to change springs. And if you just see where you can go. And within this, you can have your teammates running down another road.
Right.
And gather all that information to come up with what your best package is before you present your car for final inspection.
So a lot on the line, and it's going to be interesting to see how that practice goes.
Yes, we've got a 50-minute practice on Thursday for the Truck Series. We've got 2 50-minute practice back-to-back, Xfinity and Cup on Friday. So, and then we qualify on Saturday with Cup. So I think a great opportunity for all these teams to really dial in what they're going to have for Sunday.
It is going to be a great weekend out in the Valley of the Sun. Motor Racing Network will be there all weekend long, and we are actually kicking it off at 1:30 Eastern Time on Friday, the ARCA Menards West Series Championship race. So we're going to kick it off. We're going to salute the ARCA West Series, and then we get into just what Todd has described. NASCAR Cup Series, that final practice, or that 50-minute practice session, final practice is as well, 6 o'clock Eastern Time on Friday, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series Championship championship race, 7:30 on Friday. Saturday, 5 o'clock Eastern Time, NASCAR Cup Series qualifying, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, NASCAR Xfinity Series championship race, and Sunday, 2 o'clock Eastern Time, the NASCAR Cup Series championship race out at Phoenix International Raceway. Todd, let's go crown some champions out in Phoenix.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. I think all three series we've got just formidable. It's anybody can win in any of these three series. It's going to be a fabulous race weekend.
Fabulous race weekend, that is for sure. So we would love to have you join us on the Motor Racing Network. We appreciate Billy Scott for taking some time and joining us this time here on Crew Call. More important than all of that, though, thank you for checking us out and watching or listening to us here on Crew Call.